In this video, we're going to break down the technical skills you actually need to get started in cybersecurity, as there are roles in everything from network defense to incident response, penetration testing, cloud security, and many, many more. There's so many different paths, and it can start to feel overwhelming to know which skills are actually essential to get your foot in the door and land your first role in cyber, or even to level up in the one that you already have. So I'm going to cut through a lot of the noise and just focus on the core technical skills that give you the strongest foundation. We're going to focus on querying logs, scripting, and networking. Everything is timestamped down below, so if you want to skip ahead to a particular topic, you can easily do so. But first, we're going to focus on networking. Fundamentals in networking is really important because if you don't understand how data moves from point A to point B, you're essentially blind to what attackers are actually doing in your environment. So, for example, if you know the basics of how a normal TCP handshake works, you can instantly spot when something looks off. So, the first point that we have is attack surface understanding within networking. Knowing how networks are structured helps you identify and comprehend the potential attack surface. This includes understanding things like network topologies, devices, and protocols, all of which are crucial for recognizing vulnerabilities and potential points of entry for attackers. If you understand these at their core fundamentals, then you'll know when things start to look off. The second one we have is threat detection. So, like I said, having the knowledge of networking allows you to basically detect abnormal patterns and behaviors within the network traffic. So, let's take another example, AWS, which is Amazon Web Services. If you don't understand the networking behind AWS, you won't notice when a security group is left wide open to the internet because you don't understand what that means or how it works. And it's a classic misconfiguration that attackers love. So this isn't something really difficult to learn, you just need to essentially know it's a thing within AWS. The final one we then have is secure network design. Learning network design is important in cybersecurity because attackers usually succeed through bad design, not just luck. Let's take AWS again. If you throw all your servers into one flat VPC with no subnets or segmentation, a single compromised web server can give an attacker free movement within your database. But if you understand basic design, like using private subnets, separating workloads, or adding a jump box or a VPN for admin access, you've just made their job 10 times harder. Now, don't get me wrong, you don't need to know how to do these essentially, but your role may involve securing these or making sure you have an understanding of what looks abnormal in these environments. So it's where the knowledge of knowing how it is put together is really important, because you're not becoming a network engineer here. You're essentially looking to just have enough fluency in protocols like TCP/IP, HTTP, DNS, because when you're looking at logs and packet captures, you need to be able to tell the difference between normal traffic and malicious behavior. My favorite catchphrase here is know what's normal to understand what's abnormal. You can't spot the abnormal without knowing what's normal. So make sure you remember that and you ensure you get your fundamentals in, especially if you're becoming a SOC analyst in something like networking. Next up, we then have scripting. Now, you've probably heard this in many different places. However, this is not as widespread as you might think it is. You don't need to be fluent in every single coding language. You just need to make sure you're focusing on the right area, which is what I'm going to tell you today. So scripting is definitely one of the most valuable skills for beginners because it gives you leverage essentially. Instead of manually combing through, let's say, logs, copying indicators of compromise, or running the same command across 10 different systems, why not just automate it with a few lines of Python, PowerShell, or even Bash? That doesn't mean you need to be a full-time developer. It means building your own power tools to handle repetitive work so that you can focus on actual analysis. So I just mentioned 3 different languages there, but we can focus on something like Python, as majority of platforms will be able to handle that. So even if we look at just a 10-line script that pulls suspicious IPs from logs or checks files against a threat feed, you can save yourself hours and you immediately make yourself more effective as a SOC analyst, as an example. And that gives you leverage when you're applying for roles, especially in cybersecurity, because you can save time for the company and really show your worth. Python is definitely one of the most popular out there, which is why I recommend this one if anyone ever asks. Its syntax is clear and it's concise, and it's simple enough for beginners to pick up quickly, especially compared to the others. But even though we say it's simple, it's one of the most powerful to handle, especially in real world security tasks. And it integrates really easily with APIs. And trust me, you will use them a lot within cybersecurity. So I definitely recommend Python as one of the most important to learn. This leads us on to our second point, which is versatility. So by learning to script, like I said, you can use the languages in many different domains within cybersecurity. So it's not only if you're just becoming a SOC analyst, you need to learn Python. Python is really useful for multiple roles within cybersecurity. So even if you're looking to hop between different cybersecurity roles, you can use them in web application security, or you can even use them in pen testing. So you're not just being tied down to one role because of what you learn. And that's what's really important at the start of your journey. You want to keep your options broad till you figure out exactly what you like. So that's why I'd pick Python and highly recommend that. And speaking of Python, it's probably one of the skills that people struggle with the most to learn at the start. And you'll want to do something similar as to what I did at the start of my career, which is use a platform like Brilliant, who are actually the sponsor of today's video. Now, Brilliant is a learning app that actually makes learning stick, as instead of just watching boring lectures, you're actually solving real problems and playing with the ideas yourself, which research shows is way more effective. It helps you build real understanding with a perfect mix of interactive problems, fun challenges, and little nudges each day to keep you motivated. They cover many topics, but one that I know you guys will find really useful is the Python courses. And they just aren't about memorizing syntax, they actually guide you through building logic step by step with interactive exercises that show you how to code in real time. And in cybersecurity, that's huge because you can use it to write scripts, parse logs, automate investigations, and just even build tools. It's one of the most practical skills you can have. And the best way to grow, personally and professionally, is to learn a little every single day. All the courses are also built by expert teachers, researchers, and professionals. So I'd highly recommend you go check out Brilliant for free at brilliant.org/iMentor. You can scan the QR code on screen or click the link in the description as well. And because they're supporting this channel, you also get 20% off a premium subscription, which unlocks you unlimited access to everything on Brilliant. Now let's go over to my final point on scripting, which is security tools. So as I've slightly already touched on, integration into security tools is really important. Many security tools and frameworks out there are either built with or support languages like Python already. So you're really opening up your skill gap. It's not something these tools are starting to leverage, they're already built in. And many tools that I've used in my day-to-day role as a SOC analyst have leveraged Python already. I've used it many times and it's saved me plenty of hours within my role and helped me shine as a SOC analyst to my employers. So I would 100% recommend. The final technical skill I have for you today is querying logs. So what do I mean by this? When you're just starting in cybersecurity, learning to query logs is one of the most important technical skills you can build. Think about it. Every single attack leaves a trail in the logs. As an example, a brute force attack. It isn't just one failed login, it's hundreds. So when you're running this query, you will get a whole lot of failed logins. And suddenly you will be filled with data overload. And it will be hard to look at all that noise and get down to exactly what you need. So the key here is learning how to query these logs and actually extract the information. Like in a brute force attack, you may want to know the source IP. The second point we have is investigations. And I've gone onto this because it links with the first. This is the bread and butter, especially for SOC analysts. Let's say you get an alert that a user account logged in from another country. On its own, that's not really that suspicious as that user could be on holiday. But the real question here is, what happened next? In your investigation, which log queries can you now pivot to next? Can you check what files that account accessed, what systems it touched, And can you start to build a timeline of the incident? And that's how you turn alerts and logs into actual stories of an attack. The final skill we then have is universal. What do I mean by this? Log querying is universal. So using platforms like Splunk, ELK, Sentinel, or even old Linux logs, they all rely on the same idea: searching, filtering, and connecting the dots. So if you learn this skill as a beginner, you're not just learning one tool, you're picking up the foundation that makes it really useful in any security operations center, no matter what platform they use, as you actually understand what's required behind the scene. You can easily practice this at home as well. This is not something you need to struggle with and worry about. As an example, Splunk have a free enterprise version which you can download and run locally. The free license lets you index up to 500 megabytes of data per day, which is more than enough for practicing with logs. So you can easily create a project around this to gain that practice. If you're interested in a project around Splunk and what you need to do, comment that down below. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, remember to click that subscribe button and also check out Brilliant so you can start learning for free today.